Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So today, we're going to talk about weeds. I don't know what this is exactly, but it's one of those weeds that I'm pretty sure is a weed. And I've seen it pretty much everywhere we've lived, be it Colorado or Pennsylvania or Virginia, even here in Minnesota. And they're kind of a pain in the butt. Mostly because when you go to pick them up, if you're not careful, they wind up breaking. So they're very fragile in the center part, and then you actually have to grab as far down as possible in order to get them to pull up with as much roots as possible. So like with this one, you can see I grabbed it about down here, and just from the force of my hand flexing as I grasped it, it broke right there. These are probably the most prevalent weed we get around the house, so in this like pebbly section and stuff like that. And it might be one of those things where you might be like, well, maybe put down some plastic or something, or landscape fabric. So this has plastic down already. But I think the problem is that from years of like leaves or grass clippings or just dirt in the air traveling around, in some areas it's developed a little bit of dirt. So not a whole lot of dirt. So like this one, I dug the rocks out from around, and you can see it's got just a little teeny tiny bit of dirt here, and just a teeny tiny little hole right there. You can see just a little teeny tiny root that went through the plastic. So this plant started growing off of just that little bit. Same thing with this one. So this one I dug around, removed all the rocks and stuff like that, just like the other one. And it looks like there's maybe a little teeny tiny hole right there in the plastic. Yep, just a teeny tiny hole in the plastic. So even though we've got the rocks around and we've got plastic down, I don't know when they put the plastic down, so I don't know how old the plastic is. And then they've had a few different plants, so like this one here and the bush around the corner. So there's probably areas where the plastic's cut open, and these big guys here actually came out around this plant here. They'd kind of grown down and in, and I don't know if this is part of this plant or if this is another weed springing up, but you can already see there's like maybe a little piece of clover down in there. So putting down plastic alone and rocks or mulch probably isn't going to stop weeds from growing, as long as, you know, the mulch breaks down, the leaves break down, you know, dirt travels in the air in general. Over time you may get a fine layer of dirt that may cause weeds to appear. So in order to help treat some of the weeds around the house, what I'm going to do is use this Ortho ground clear year-long vegetation killer. And I thought this was a refill, so everything's all pre-mixed, ready to go, but I messed up. So this is actually one where I need to mix 24 fluid ounces to a gallon of water, and then I'm going to be using this Dexamore 2-gallon sprayer, and then 1 gallon is 128 fluid ounces. So mixing 24 fluid ounces to 1 gallon would be about 1/6 of the container. So this Dexamore, kind of windy, looked pretty good when we used it for the Ortho Weed Be Gone stuff, or the home defense bug barrier. But this one looks a little light on the quality department. So this part here is what seals to this O-ring here, and it's a little bit uneven, as you can see. So I'm going to try and knock down some of these highs with the razor knife real quick, just to help get a better seal right here, because I hate when you're trying to use a sprayer and it leaks somewhere, and either it gets on you or you're like, you know, leaking in general. That's a good bit better than it was. We'll be using the yellow tip. So the yellow tip is a lower volume fan, whereas the red one is a higher volume fan. You kind of see the size of the hole in the center. But the yellow volume, the yellow tip should give you a little bit more control and a tighter spray pattern. That way, if you're, you know, zipping around other plants in the garden, hopefully you're not hitting them as well. I got this labeled, and as always, it's kind of one of those things where you really want to make sure that you've got your mixers labeled, especially if you're not cleaning them out really good, just so that you don't want to grabbing this to spread like fertilizer or something, and then suddenly now everything's dying. I went around the house, not 100%. I hit this back area around these steps. I hit these cracks, and it's kind of interesting. You see that little bit of like a white residue it kind of left behind. So I'm interested to see how this winds up going. Basically, we've got some damage to the plants that we're growing. And as far as I can tell, I don't think we have anything new coming in these cracks. So this one's probably damaged from where I sprayed it before. We hit all the cracks and stuff up here. Some places I knocked in the weeds and the grass out first, some places I didn't. These guys here are dying off, and you can kind of see where I stopped spraying. And I went fairly deep into here. I tried to stay back from most of like the plants that I know are good plants. So that one over there, I'm not 100% that one's supposed to be there. That one, I think it's supposed to be there. So I hit along the edging on both sides just to see how it would go. These are definitely having a hard time with it. And then right here, which is a super common like weed area for me. So in the years past, this winds up growing quite a few. These are having quite the hard time. And I'm hoping the plants around it aren't being affected. So this one's kind of interesting because this one, as it gets sunnier, starts to almost sunburn. And especially as it gets warmer. So this plant here will probably start to show, you know, negative signs soon. Plus the boys tend to pee on it a lot because it's big and fluffy and easy target. Doesn't move very fast. So that one there seems pretty much fine. This guy looks okay. And it does have a little bit of a smell, but it's almost smells like salt, if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird smell. So it's not a real strong chemical smell. It's not like when you do like the bug barrier. So it's just a little bit of a different smell. But hopefully that'll stop us from having a big giant box of weeds to clear out next year. If you guys have these big old suckers growing up around your house, go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like the video, and I'll check you next time.